First, let's talk about RDS. So RDS, we know what it is. We've seen it in depth. It is managed PostgreSQL, MySQL, Oracle, MariaDB, SQL Server, all that stuff, okay? And we've seen how it works. We must provision an EC2 instance and EBS volume. So that happens behind the scenes. Amazon does that for us, but it's basically what happens. And then we tell Amazon the instance type we want and the EBS volume type and size and all these things. And then Amazon provides us a database ready to go. Now, we don't have direct access to this underlying EC2 instance, but this is what happens in the backend. Now, this has support for read replicas and multi-AZ. So read replica allows us to scale reads, multi-AZ allows us to save and recover from disaster. And security, we've seen it, is done through IAM, security groups, KMS for encryption at rest, and SSL for encryption in transit. And sometimes Postgres and MySQL will have IAM authentication as a feature. There's also a feature of doing backups, snapshots, point-in-time recovery feature, which is really nice. And there's manage and schedule maintenance, so our database is kept up to date by AWS. The monitoring can happen through CloudWatch, and so this is pretty much all you should know for RDS, but which is already a lot. And so use cases would be RDBMS OLTP, so to store relational data sets. So remember OLTP, online transaction processing. And then from it, we can perform SQL queries, ad hoc queries basically, and we can do transactions. So transactional inserts, updates, deletes is an available feature. So now what I want to show you is just RDS, but more from a solutions architect perspective. So the well-architectured framework has 5 pillars. And so what I've done is like comparing RDS to the 5 pillars, just so we get a really good understanding of how they are. So operations is we have a very small downtime when a failover happens and when maintenance happens. And when we scale reads or EC2 instance and EBS deploy, that implies manual intervention. So that means that we still have to do a few operations on our RDS databases. And then when there is a change, maybe we have to do an application change as well. In terms of security, AWS will be responsible for OS security, for the EC2 instance security, but we are responsible for letting know to use KMS, to configure the security groups correctly, to set up the IAM policies correctly, and authorizing users in our database and enforcing SSL encryption. In terms of reliability, well, there is this multi-AZ feature and it's done automatically for us, so there will be a failover in case of failures, and that makes RDS particularly reliable. Now, if you don't use multi-AZ, then you have a risk, obviously, of having some outages. Performance will depend basically on the EC2 instance type you provisioned for your RDS instance, and as well as the EBS volume type. So do you want to use GP2 or IO1? And then if you want to scale and performance and reads, you need to add read replicas. And RDS in that case doesn't auto-scale. So it's not something that's super cloud native. It's still something we have to provision and scale manually and basically adapt based on our workload. In terms of cost, it is very simple. You're going to pay per the hour based on the provision EC2 instance type and the EBS volume. So I like to view technology and databases in this light because it really gives us 5 pillars to work against and really evaluate the database technology. And I'll do this for all the rest of the databases in this section. So I hope you liked it, and I will see you in the next lecture.